Hey everybody, so last night I saw It Chapter 2, directed by Andy Muscati, starring James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransone, and Bill Skarsgård. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest letdown of the year for me in the cinema. On all levels, this film fails, in my opinion. Story wise, I want to say off the bat, I do want to say that I found this movie funny, and I thought that Hader and Ryan had great comedic chops and chemistry on screen. But I think it's weak. Like everything makes sense, but it's formed and put together in such a strange way and formed into this forced three-act structure that it forms itself to and just really bogs the movie down. Speaking of which, the third act structure of this film is atrocious. If you have seen the TV version of it, the first hour is basically the second part with a lot less camp. The second act is cliche and tropey to all hell and plainly boring, but the third act almost completely saves the film for me, in my opinion. Not that much, though. Now, as far as the characters and acting, some I liked more than others. It's not a fact, but it feels to me as if the characters Mustafa as Mike, Ryan as Ben, and Ransone as Eddie barely get any on screen time. But compared to Hayden and Chastain, they get probably the same. But it feels like McAvoy gets a lot. And his accent is horrendous and annoyed me every time he spoke. The story also tries to force in a subplot that Richie was gay, but they never fully expand or explain that or really give any solution. They just kind of brush it off, much like they did with Henry Bowers. He would seem like he would be an impending threat that hovers over the loser club, like in the first one, but he's barely there and is only in 3 scenes and then he gets killed. Plus, the whole movie goes back and forth between present day and a flashback, and doing it once or twice is fine to establish characters and what's happened to them. But holy shit, they do it so many times it honestly gets annoying. And it seems as if the kids somehow get worse, or got worse compared to the first one, or didn't even care. Many of them didn't care about what they were doing. When I do believe that these scenes were filmed during the first one, but the acting as a whole was very meh. Chastain seemed bored. Ryan barely was on screen for me to tell if he was any good. Mustafa was fine in his limited role, but didn't show much range. McAvoy, as I said, has his terrible accent, so take that as you will. And Hayden Ransone, I liked fairly enough, though Ransone was barely on screen and Hader wasn't given a whole lot to do. And Skarsgård was fine, but he fell into the same problem too. He was barely on screen as Pennywise, and it feels as if they had to force him into the first 2 acts so the audience simply didn't get bored and walk out of the theater. Save for the final act, which wasn't significantly in CGI. Which, speaking of the third act, let's move in and talk about CGI because it's clearly shows that 90% of the entire CGI budget was put into the third act. It looks good in the end for Pennywise, but the rest of the movie looked terrible. Terrible, in my opinion. It's not perfect CGI, it's not great CGI, but it suffices. And compared to everything else, it looks leaps and bounds better. There's one thing I can say I genuinely liked about this movie, and it's a single shot in the third act. And really, that's about it. It's not scary, like, at all. And I am a person who gets scared very easily of anything. And if I'm saying it's not scary, you can take that to the fucking bank. It's surprisingly boring, and honestly, I did not care about what was going on. I remember trying to snap me out of my funk and mentality of knowing how bad the first 2 acts are, and almost completely checking out of the entire movie, and trying to get myself excited for the final confrontation, but it simply could not. I did not care about what was going on screen. I did not care about the characters. I did not care about this movie. Oh, and I thought directing was bad too. Shots felt claustrophobic, edited weirdly, and framed in very strange ways that didn't make any sense for me. Uh, or really even go along with the directing style of the first. I really wanted to like this movie. I really did. I remember thinking that this is probably, as I'm sitting down in the theater, was my third most anticipated movie of the year behind Endgame and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But I just feel incredibly underwhelmed and extremely let down. I'm going to give It Chapter 2 a 5.1 out of 10.